It barely passed the House, the big beautiful bill.
Yep.
It seems it has no chance in the Senate in its
Oh
current
no,
form.
it won't look the
And
same.
no, it won't look the same at all. And so my question to you is, how does this bill look in order to get passed?
Before I answer that, how does it look before it gets passed? Well, actually, I'll answer that first. I don't know. I really, really don't know. There are some senators, Ron Johnson in particular. I think there are going to be a couple others who are going to say we need more cuts. This is just not enough. You can't. I run a business. Anyone out there, I'm sure you have a lot of followers who run businesses. You can't cut taxes while not offsetting spending. Like you can't keep spending at the same level while also cutting taxes. If you're going to cut taxes, you have to decrease spending. I mean, that's just economics 101. Anybody who runs a business out there, they know exactly what I'm talking about. I have actually stated on air that I don't support this bill. I actually believe that the United States needs to focus on austerity. We need to limit and reduce spending in some significant ways outside of military spending. And I say that because of the growth of the Chinese budget as it pertains to developing their military. They're ahead of us with hypersonics. There are a couple of other technological revolutions that we have seen in the past year or two that have come from the Chinese military that we are a little behind. We need to catch up on. So I don't think now's the time to decrease military spending. With that said, though, we got to cut across the board. In about the next 5 to 10 years, give or take, I might be off here a couple years or so, the federal debt will be the largest line item on the federal budget. In about 25 to 30 years, our debt will be twice as big as what we're producing a year, meaning our GDP, we're not producing enough. We won't be producing enough in about 25 to 30 years to really tackle the ballooning debt. At some point, we're going to be looking at $100 trillion in debt. I don't know how that's sustainable. Now, one could argue, well, the United States could just default, and then because we are the world reserve, so look, we're just not going to pay this. Everybody depends on the United States, and we're going to just refresh. And if we do that, then we're going to find ourselves the way Italy and Venezuela found themselves. So that's not a viable alternative. The only alternative is to pay down the debt and see a surplus. The only way you can see that surplus, pay it down, cut expenditures. If I were to cut taxes, it would only be for middle and working class people. Like I make a lot of money. I love to have my damn taxes cut, but for the sake of the country, the focus needs to be on the group that really does fill the void of that consumer base that I was talking about a couple moments ago. That 16 plus trillion, that is middle and working class families. So let's figure out a way to increase their wealth. Let's figure out a way to increase their spending capabilities. You can only do that by decreasing taxes on them, giving them an opportunity to also pay down their personal family household debt. And then we as a federal government focus on paying the national debt down as much as possible. Start with the interest, get that out of the way. I would say we probably could do that in about 4 or 5 years. Once the interest is down, then we can start going after the debt itself. And so I would argue maybe in about 8 years, Josh, we could see ourselves in a fiscally sound place where there's some level of a surplus, and then we go from there. The problem is, Josh, nobody wants to cut anything. No one in Congress wants to touch Medicaid, Medicare, Social Security, any other program that, I hate to say this, that their constituents like and love and in a lot of ways depend on. This is a complicated thing, man. And somebody has to be the adult in the room and say, look, we can't afford to keep living this way. It's not good for the next generation. It's not good for the health of the country for the next century. We are going to have to make cuts. It is going to be tough for a lot of people right now. It is what it is. Now, we're going to try our best to not raise taxes on working class and middle class people. And where we can, I think we'll try to find ways to actually cut taxes. But we are going to cut spending across the board. All programs that are not necessity for the safety of the country, we're going to pause. Any program that isn't mandatory to preserve some baseline level of our safety net for people who live right above or below the poverty line, because we really want to take care of those people. I think we are a benevolent society in that regard. We're going to try our best not to touch those numbers, but you're going to see a decrease. And we will be more stringent on who can apply for those types of safety net programs. But no one's willing to say that, Josh, because they'll lose elections. But somebody has to say, man, this is not sustainable. And I don't understand what Congress, Republicans, Democrats, and even a lot of the American people out there who are saying, look, this is great. This is not great. It is not great having $100 trillion in debt. What happens, Josh, when Treasury attempts to sell U.S. Treasury bonds and investors, domestic and foreign, say, we don't want to buy them because we have no confidence in the country's ability to pay it back?
It's basically what's happening right now.
Josh,
the bond market
last year, I believe in either January or February was one of the first times ever, and you can Google this. I'm certain it was either last year or the year before. It was one of the first times, I think, in either a long time or ever, that the Treasury had a hard time selling notes.
Yeah.
It's never happened. And It's starting to happen because people are saying, we don't trust in your ability to pay this back. We don't trust if we get these bonds that the security and faith of the United States of America will assure in 30 years I can come back and cash these damn things in for a net positive net gain. People don't believe it anymore, man.
Yeah, the problem I see with this issue, when it comes to policy, obviously that's the politicians' jobs, and Congress needs to get their act together. But with this one specifically, I just don't see the American people getting on board with it. And so I kind of made this dichotomy in my episode, I think earlier this week, whereas there's kind of two thoughts to governing. On one hand, you've got the Ron Johnson thought, which is, and the Thomas Massie one, which is, I am committed to truth. The math doesn't math. It doesn't work. And then you have all the other people. And by the way, there's merit to both. I'm not trying to put shade on either. But the other side is, look, I know it's true. I also know what my constituents want. And I was elected to represent them. So I'm going to do what they want me to do, whether I think it's right or not. And so my concern with this one is, how do we get Americans on board? Does it require just an incredibly persuasive person to really break this down in a meaningful way? Or does it just require enough pain to be felt in the economy before people kind of have that aha moment?
I think you can, if I were advising President Trump, I would probably say, Mr. President, this isn't the bill. I would say, Mr. President, we have to cut. I would explain to the president, if we don't try to do this now, I would explain to him what is to come over the next 10 years and then the next 25 years. I would say, sir, you have an opportunity to stop this now. We cannot continue to wait. We can't wait until 2028, Josh, for the hope of a Republican to win, because at that point, again, the interest rates on the debt alone will be the largest line item on the federal budget, which meaning people don't understand what the hell I'm saying here. I'm essentially saying every line item that requires a payment from the federal government, most of it, the bulk of it, will have to go to servicing the interest on our debt. And then everything else, ladies and gentlemen, will follow after that. You have a household, I presume. You pay your own bills. It makes no sense for your debt to be the number one thing and then everything else follows. That means you have no savings. That means you have no rainy day reserves if something were to happen to you. If most people are aware of that in their everyday lives and they're trying to have that balance, I would assume most people would say the federal government should do better. So if I were advising the president, I would say, sir, this is a problem. I would try to explain it to him why. And then I would say, we need to start going across the country and talking to the American people about why this is so important to have cuts. And I think you'd win some people over. I don't think it would be enough, though. Unfortunately, I think sometimes people, and God, this sucks that it has to be this way, Josh, but sometimes people only learn when there is real crushing pain. But the problem is, Josh, when we get to that point, my friend, this is going to be even harder. Hell, it may even be almost impossible to tackle because the debt now is already around 100,000, 150,000 per American worker, I believe, somewhere in that ballpark. When we get to the place where it's $100 trillion, I mean, Josh, you're talking about $400,000 per working American. The average American doesn't even make that. So think about mathematically what's going to be required to try to get that under control. This is a serious moment, precarious moment that we're in, and we may not feel it today. You just had a beautiful daughter. Congratulations. I just had a daughter. She's 4 months now. There are a lot of people out there with children and grandchildren. Again, we're okay now. But Josh, when you and I'm 34, I don't know how old you are, but in about 10, 15 years, okay, so 10, 15 years for both of us, we're going to really feel this. And for our children, it's going to be worse. And for our grandchildren, Josh, it will be unsustainable. Now, my hope and there's some technologists that have said this, that maybe AI can help reset this in some very interesting ways in terms of the economics. I'm open to that argument. I'd love to see what that could look like and how feasible that would be. But we're not there yet. So I got to deal with reality. And reality says that we got a problem. Houston, we have a problem.
As many of you guys know, I have a brand new baby at home, and so I'm getting zero sleep right now. But fortunately, the partner of this show, Energy Rocks, gets me all the energy that I need for the gym. Energy Rocks replaces that heavy, sugary pre-workout drink with a light supplement that you can fit right in your pocket and eat anytime you need that boost. It's modeled after Pop Rocks. Energy Rocks was created by an athlete for competitive athletes and anyone who needs a caffeine boost without those messy mixes and the caffeine crashes. Guys, it's only 20 calories, 4 grams of sugar, and you get all of the energy that you would get from 1 cup of coffee. Go check them out right now, because just for my viewers, they're giving a 20% off their whole store. Just use the code JoshCarr20 off at checkout. The link and that code are in the description below. Thank you so much, guys, for watching this conversation with myself and Shermichael. Please like the video and subscribe to my channel so other great patriots like yourself will see it. And you can tune in every single day at 6 p.m. for the live show, or you can watch another video right here.